Facebook. Hello, YouTube. Hello, world. Hello, Tom Hanks, if you ever decide to watch. I'm still going to give you a shout out, Tom Hanks. Someday you might watch this show. But welcome. You have yet again stumbled into Kari's Corner, and I'm so happy that you're here. I am super pumped today. So excited, so blessed, so overwhelmed today. For a couple of reasons. Last week, I know you guys probably don't notice this, but last week we hit a record number of viewers on Kari's Corner, which is fantastic. We had over 2,500 viewers, and that was just on Thursday of last week. So the numbers may have gone up since then. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for tuning in and listening to tips and tricks and all the fun things that we get to show you on Kari's Corner. I am so thankful for this opportunity and this platform. And I'm so thankful for all of you for tuning in and just trying to make your English better, trying to prepare yourself for life in the United States, whatever part of the journey you're on. Thank you so much for coming into my corner for a few minutes every Thursday and just taking the opportunity to prepare yourself. So big shout out to that. The second reason that I am super excited, and there's a whole list of reasons that go like bullet points under my number 2, is I have a special guest again today from the TOEFL. Michelle Hampton has joined us yet again. And she is representing the ETS testing system, the TOEFL specifically. And she has been with us before. So if you have TOEFL questions, remember, always please drop in the chat who you are, where you're watching from, all those wonderful things. But have questions for Michelle, because Michelle is going to be talking about the brand new TOEFL experience. Yay! Hello in the Philippines. So without further ado, because I can't contain my excitement any longer, I'm going to welcome Michelle onto the show. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Kari. Hi, everybody. Nice to be back.
How are you? How has life been since we've had you on the show in 2022?
Life has been great. We've been busy at TOEFL trying to roll out this modernized version of the TOEFL IBT, making sure that students can have a better experience, and that's always our goal.
I love that word. I love that you didn't just call it updated. It's modernized. Like it's
right.
Totally like that's such a 2023. This is the new modern TOEFL. It's like TOEFL got a makeover. And I love that. I'm so excited for you to share with us the changes on the TOEFL, why the TOEFL, not that it wasn't approachable before and that it didn't give people nightmares and hives before being a very long test and daunting test. Now that it's in this new modernized version, it's far more approachable. It's far more, I feel more just not acceptable. I'm not quite sure the word that I'm looking for, but I just feel like the TOEFL has made so many positive changes and taken a lot of great feedback from people who have taken the TOEFL. So, and we were talking before we went on air that I love that you said this. TOEFL doesn't just make a change to make itself more competitive or to make a change. They actually put a lot of research behind these changes. Isn't that right, Michelle?
That's true. And one of the main things that test takers have told us over the years, and even many of their ESL teachers have mentioned this, is that it's an awfully long test. Students really have test fatigue by the end of the testing experience. They're wiped out. In many cases, they have to go home and take a nap. So I get it. We get it. And we have been looking at ways to try and make the test shorter, but still measure the skills accurately and fully so that the programs that they're looking at will still accept the scores, not ask the students to do anything extra, and give the students the chance to show their capabilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the deal. You don't just want to make the test shorter. You still have to make it still as valid and reliable as it was before as a 4-hour test. So cutting out 2 hours of a test or an hour and a half of a test that's an extensive chunk to cut out and still maintain its validity and reliability. So, but I'm sure TOEFL has done that, and Michelle's designed a presentation for us. So without further ado, I'm going to let her get started to talk about all of the really positive changes that TOEFL's been making.
Great, thank you. So obviously we're here to cover the modernized test as we talked about. Next slide, please. I myself am based in the Princeton, New Jersey office, which is the company headquarters. And while I work in the USA, I do support all of our colleagues and partners who work around the world on behalf of TOEFL. But in case any of you on the session are not truly familiar with TOEFL, let me help you understand. TOEFL stands for the Test of English as a Foreign Language, and it's been around really since 1964. And we've made changes and updates along the way as technology has become a part of the testing experience. We've been able to incorporate that, and we continue to use it to modernize. But it is definitely the world's premier English language proficiency test for university study, work, and immigration. And many of you are aware of that and have possibly taken TOEFL before, knowing that it could be useful to you in your nursing career. It is the only English language test out there that is strictly academic content, meaning that our questions come from university lectures and university level textbooks, because the expectation normally when people are taking this test is that they're going into a university setting. But many professions and companies rely on the TOEFL because it is one of the most rigorous English language proficiency tests. It does measure all 4 critical skills of language acquisition: your ability to read, listen, speak, and write in English. And it's about communicative English. So we're asking you to listen to a conversation, read the text that's on the screen, and then possibly speak or write your answer. So just as you would in a normal conversation or in a experience with your patients, you're having to take in multiple endpoints of data to be able to communicate what the next plan is. And many of you might be aware that since the COVID outbreak happened, we've been able to deliver TOEFL both still in testing centers, but also students can take the same rigorous TOEFL IBT test in their own home with an online proctor that we provide, with no additional expense to the test takers, but it does give you the option. And that's also helpful for many of our test takers around the world who may not be physically close to a test center. They have that opportunity to test at home. And as you can see on screen, to access the TOEFL online, to get any of the information that I'm sharing with you today, you can go to our website.
Absolutely. So to throw something in about the at-home test, and I know for a very brief time, CGFNS, because of COVID, did accept those at-home tests. For our RNs out there, if you're an RN listening, 2 points to remind you of. Number 1, TOEFL is the only test accepted in all 50 states, 51 if you include Washington, D.C., that is accepted by all of those boards of nursing. So if you are especially if you're a DaVita candidate and you're not going to find out your location until later in your immigration process, TOEFL is the way to go because it checks all the boxes. No matter what, you don't have to worry about your English exam because you took the TOEFL and you know it's accepted. So that's a big selling point for the TOEFL right there. And the second thing, if you are a nurse aide, and I know we have a lot of nurse aides out there and we appreciate all of our nurse aides, but if you're a nurse aide, you don't have to take an English exam, right? You don't have to take an English exam as part of your immigration process. But if you want to take one and you just want to have one under your belt, you want to be able to put on there that you took an exam, I mean, know that it's not going to be accepted if you choose to be, if you choose to go through the RN process and become Board of Nursing certified. But if you're a nurse aide just going through the immigration process and you want to check out a language exam, you can take the TOEFL at home. You can totally sit and take the TOEFL at home. That way you don't even have to leave your house. And I know that a lot of our nurse aides are coming from various regions in Africa where testing centers might not be as readily available. So if you're a nurse aide and you just want to take an English exam, TOEFL and their at-home version is a great way to really prepare yourself for the rigor of the English language coming over to the United States. So thank you for mentioning that at-home version for us as well, Michelle.
Sure. Next slide, please, Kari. And this, again, underscores the 3 different ways that people can take the test, but it is important that you remember exactly what Kari just said. Many of you will want to take the test center version because that's what's accepted for you to become a nurse here in the States. For those of you who are nurses' aides, you have an option. You could also take the test center version if you choose, but you do have the ability to also consider taking the home edition. In the case of the assessment, it's the same questions no matter where you're taking it. We make sure that it's scored the same. So you get a score for each of the 4 sections, a low of 0 to a high of 30. We add those 4 section scores together to create your total score, which works out to be either a low of 0 up to a high of 120. So the institutions or the programs that you're looking at will let you know what their requirements are, depending, as Kari said, on the state in which you're working in. But you will find that for the most part, it's pretty consistent across the nursing platform. And it does give you that opportunity to have a target to shoot for and to utilize the opportunity to test. Now, for students who are people who are going to be taking the test in a test center, one of the innovations that we've made since 2019 is that you're able to take the test every 3 days. Not that I'd wish that on anybody, but it means that you have the opportunity, if for some reason you think you didn't do well on your test that you just sat for, you could register again as soon as 3 days later. You could take the test again as soon as 3 days later. So it's possible that instead of waiting 2 weeks, as we used to require, you could then have 2 results under your belt. And another benefit that we've added in modernizing the test is that when you take the test at the end, you automatically get to see the results, your scores in the reading and the listening section. And that's because that's scored by computer. We use a human as well as AI technology to score the other 2 sections, the speaking and the writing. And that's because the human who is scoring the test is an ESL educator. And they've worked with students around the world, their understanding of different levels of ability, and they're able to be more accurate in their assessment of a test taker's capabilities. They're also there to make sure that what you've answered makes sense in the response. The AI is simply there to look and see, is this sentence or what was said grammatically correct? And for example, cloudless green forms eat together. That's a sentence, but it doesn't make any sense. So you do need both to give you that break. The paper edition, we only offer it in 4 countries. It is a hybrid. It allows students to take 3 of the skills in a test center and 1 at home. And the home version is just the speaking, the 20-minute speaking section. I would not necessarily recommend this to your students because your people, because it's really much better to focus on either the home edition or the test center based version.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You don't really see many. I mean, now it sounds kind of like you're almost phasing it out. Like you have it there as an availability option. But yeah, definitely. If you're an RN, you've got to take it in a test center. If you're a nurse aide, you have some flexibility there. But definitely, I agree with Michelle. Focus on a test center or a home edition for sure.
Great. Thank you. Next slide, please. So this gives you a chance to see what's involved in each of the 4 sections. In the case of the reading section, we're really trying to make sure that we're measuring your ability to read and understand English. And as you know, especially as nurses, it's going to be critical for you to be able to read, bless you, the doctor's notes, whatever handwriting they use, but to understand the scripts that are being required and the tests. So it's essential. And it involves 2 reading passages, and they're approximately 700 words each, and there are 10 questions for each of the passages. And again, those are taken from university text material. The topics will vary. You don't need to have specific subject knowledge because that's not what we're measuring. We're instead measuring your ability to understand what you've read and communicate or answer what was addressed. There's a glossary feature that's built into the reading section, and that's also to help you with the fact that maybe some of those words might not be familiar to you. In the listening section, you can see here that we're measuring your ability to understand conversations and lectures in English. So we have 3 different lectures that you're going to hear and 2 conversations. And the conversations are going to be about the lectures. So it's a chance for you to, again, demonstrate your ability to understand general conversation between 2 people and also to be able to respond back. In the case of the speaking section, here specifically, we're measuring your ability to speak efficiently and effectively in English so that you can be understood. And it involves 4 different tasks that you'll have to perform. And you'll be speaking into the microphone that is built into the headset if you're testing in the test center. If you're testing at home, we ask you not to wear a headset for security purposes. You'll be able to speak out loud to your computer, which will pick up on what you're saying. And you'll be able, since you'll be testing in a room alone, to hear the conversations and the prompts without any interference. And then for the writing section, there are 2 tasks that you'll complete, or 2 essays, I should say, that you'll write. One is about 20 minutes in length, the amount of time we give you to write, and it's called an integrated writing task. And that's where we ask you to listen to a short lecture and read a passage and then write your answer in response. And then we have a new prompt that is one of the things that we've added to the test or changed about the test. And that means that it is writing for an academic discussion. And that is going to have you, for about 10 minutes, write you're going to state and support an opinion in an online classroom discussion that you have read. And then you'll be able to write that response in a 10-minute time frame. So these will allow you to demonstrate your ability to type out your essay answer on your keyboard and respond. All totaled, we have now made the test less than 2 hours in time. And one of the ways that we did that was we removed the unscored test questions that used to be built into the exam. Those were a way for us to kind of trial future questions to see if they would work well in this environment. If they didn't work well, we removed them, we never used them again, or we could see if we could improve it and make it much more efficient. But we've decided there are other ways that we can pre-trial test questions. We don't have to include them in this particular test. That saves some time. Then we also looked at the instructions that we had for each of the sections. Those were the instructions that we had when we deployed the test in 2005. So they were maybe overly complicated. So we were able to streamline that and make those much more efficient. And because we knew from the research that we had done over the years, we've heard back from test takers that the test was really draining to be so long. And especially since at the very end is when you're being asked to do your writing. And for many students, we were looking at how can we change that? So in 2019, we were able to shorten the test to a little, it went from originally 4 hours down to around 3 hours. And now we're able to say that it is less than 2 hours. So it's a definite benefit to test takers. And still, it's rigorous and it uses the same valid criteria in evaluating your English proficiency. So it is a reliable and accurate test. The score scale is staying the same. So if you tested before and you take this modernized version, your scores will be the same. You'll be able to compare them because it's the same scoring rubric that we're using and the same skills that we're measuring. So there was no need to change the score scale. Now you'll note in the bottom corner there that these modernized changes only apply to the test center based TOEFL IBT and the TOEFL IBT home edition. So again, this is important information for you to be aware of.
Absolutely. Just to give you guys the kind of a comparison, if you took the TOEFL prior to July 26th, correct me if I'm wrong, I think July 26th was the rollout date for the new TOEFL. So if you took the test prior to July 26th, your listening segment alone ranged from 41 to 57 minutes. It still had, I think, the same amount of it had 3 to 4 lectures and 2 to 3 conversations. So you're still listening to the same amount, but each one of those sections used to have 10 questions. And now you're getting that down to 20 questions total for the whole section. Reading was 3 to 4 passages with 10 questions each. So there were 40 questions there. It was an hour or over an hour long by itself. I don't know about you guys, but like reading can put me to sleep. So no wonder you're so exhausted after an hour of just trying to read. And it's one of those things where you probably read the same sentence over and over because you're just trying so hard to strain. The writing, you explained that writing change, still 2 writing tasks, but much shorter. I love that you shortened it to that kind of academic response, because that's what a lot of colleges are using. They use a platform like Blackboard or Canvas, and professors will post a discussion question and you have to write a brief response to that. So I feel like that's an excellent integrated task that even as nurses, I'm sure you guys posted on discussion boards while you were in university. I mean, how often as adults do we have to sit down and write 5-paragraph essays, right? How often in our careers do we have to sit down and do that? Even your discharge letters, nurses, are meant to be the appropriate length, right? You get rid of the fluff, just get to the main stuff. So I love that integrated writing task. And the speaking task didn't change too much, correct? That time length is still
Correct.
I think the speaking task was pretty much left alone, right?
Correct. The only task that we changed was just the one in writing.
Okay.
Otherwise, we just removed unnecessary questions that were never going to be scored anyway. And that shaved a lot of time, as you can see.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
All right. Next slide, please. So this QR code takes you directly to our test prep page. And one of the things that I think is fabulous is the fact that even though we've modernized the test, we've obviously made that change to the writing section, it's a shorter test. The existing test preparation materials that we had for the version of the TOEFL IBT that was delivered before July 26th, all of that test prep still works and is applicable to this current version. So if you had previously purchased any of our test prep materials or downloaded any of our free materials, feel free to still use it. It's still good. It's still valid. We did, though, in April, launch specific practice materials for that new writing essay, so that way you could practice. And I think the last time I looked, we were up to 22 different practice questions just for that writing essay. So that way you could try different ones instead of just practicing on the same single task. So with all of the test prep that we have, and we have online courses, which can be done in a 6-week chunk, or you could do it modularly. So for example, if writing is where you struggle, you could just join for the week that they're going over the writing and just focus on that. We also have TOEFL YouTube channel, TOEFL TV, so that you can watch videos. Some are given by the people who write the test. Some are from ESL educators, but it's all there to help you. We have eBooks as well as official e-guides, and those also can be purchased if you want the physical book, but the electronic version is handy and available as well. So you'll find that all of that is there, as well as practice tests. And the best thing about the practice tests that are available online from us is the fact that if you go to one of the e-guides or e-books, and you see that it has 3 practice tests in it, those practice tests are completely different from any of the other practice tests that are offered. So you have access to, I think it's a total of 12 or 15 different practice tests online that you can access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to become familiar with it. Next slide, please, because I have a few more things to tell you about test prep.
All right.
We just joined recently with a company called Preply. And Preply is wonderful because they provide tutoring to students who are trying to improve their English performance. And this is great for anyone of any skill level who just wants to make sure that they're ready and prepared. We did give them specific training to teach the kind of academic English that appears on TOEFL IBT because we knew that our test takers have specific goals that they're trying to achieve. Perhaps they want to improve their scores in a certain section, or overall they want to make sure that they are an ideal candidate for the program that they're looking at. So we first have trained all of the Preply tutors on the new TOEFL IBT, but we also made sure that they understand in general language acquisition and what we're trying to accomplish. So it's a very good marriage. And this again is a wonderful resource and an option for our test takers.
So does Preply have a cost associated with it?
So Preply at this point for us does, I think, have a nominal cost. And I'll have to check on that, and I can write back to you and let you know, Kari,
Okay.
because I'm not sure if the price that exists is the same worldwide, because as we know, the TOEFL IBT test fee does vary around the world.
Right.
So I just want to make sure I get you the correct information on the fee.
Absolutely.
And next slide, please. And one of the things that we just launched, last week, is the updated TOEFL Go app. So if you're like me and you had the original TOEFL Go app on your phone, take that off, and you're going to want to go to our website, to the TOEFL website, and then download the app from that onto your phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, doesn't matter. But you'll see that the icon looks different. It's just the word go with the exclamation point, but it is still teal. So you will know that it's different because that's all you'll see on the icon on your phone. But the benefit is that the TOEFL Go app is designed to give you access to all of the test prep materials I mentioned before, and be able to access it wherever you are, so that if you are on a bus or you're waiting while your child is seeing the dentist, you can go through and do some exercises and practice and make sure that you are working on your skills. So it's very handy. It's also compatible if you're using it on a tablet, because I used it on my Kindle and it worked fine. But again, this is just for the practice. Our assessments, even if you're taking the TOEFL IBT Home Edition, cannot be taken on a tablet. That can only be taken on a computer or a laptop.
Very good. I'm looking in my app store right now, just so I have my phone. And if you go to the app store and you just search TOEFL Go, the ETS TOEFL app, you probably can.
Well, actually, no.
That's not the right one. So you have to go to the website.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know why that is, but I believe different people set it up that way this year. So I had that same problem. I thought I had downloaded directly from my Google Play, the correct app. And then I was informed, oh no, you have to go to the website first, and then download it from there.
All right. I'm going to download it while you're talking about the next one. I hope everyone out there is downloading this app.
Next slide, please. All right. So in order to register for the test, and again, this is something you can do from your home, or if you happen to have the official TOEFL app downloaded, which I'll discuss in a second, you can register that way. But first you want to create your account, and you can create that account whether you're ready to test or not. It's just a way of establishing your presence on the TOEFL system. And you need to make sure that you're using the name that is the same that is on your ID documentation, your identity documentation that you would present at a test center or when you're testing online to show the proctor. The reason why your name has to be spelled exactly the same way is we want to make sure it's the exact same person. We don't want to share your scores with the wrong people, and I'm sure you wouldn't want that either. And it's also important because it's a matter of security, not only for your sake, but also for the testing staff in a testing center to make sure that the right person is there to take the test. If for some reason your name does not match, your identity documentation does not match what you've written in your account, your online registration profile for TOEFL, you will not be allowed to test. Or you might be allowed to test and the scores will be canceled later because the test center staff did not want to cause a commotion at the test center. So you want to make sure that you're listing your name the way it appears on your ID documentation. The next thing you'll be able to do is select your test location, whether it's at home, taking the TOEFL IBT Home Edition, or in a testing center. And with the testing center, you'll find that you can select a testing center anywhere in the world. So if you happen to be visiting family for an extended vacation, a couple of countries away, you can test there. That's perfectly all right. Or you can test again in your own country at a test center. It doesn't have to be the one in your own city. You can certainly travel to test. You'll want to pick a date and a time, and keeping in mind again that it takes about 4 days or so to get your test results. You want to make sure you're getting them in enough time to be able to be useful to you. But we offer across the different ways to test the ability for you to take the tests up to 6 days a week. So you can certainly find a day that fits your schedule. And for those of you who are choosing the at-home option, the nurse's aide, you'll find that you can test 24 hours a day. So when we state that you need to be in a testing room alone when you take it at home, that could mean that you can wait until everybody in your family has gone to bed, or before they've gotten up for the day, or once they've left the house and you're there alone. So that gives you greater flexibility. And then to complete the registration and payment, you'll have the opportunity at that time to select any school recipients that you may be aware of. For example, if any of the state and most of the, actually all of the state nursing associations have a code number that they use to receive test material scores or test scores from candidates. You can also buy any prep materials. Even if our test prep materials are free, you'll find that you have to indicate you're placing an order for it, but you won't be charged. And then you'll check out, and that will give you then access to everything. The free test prep that's available and automatically pushed to you, as well as the free practice test that's automatically pushed to you. The other options of test prep, all of that will be available.
Very cool. Very cool for the registration process. That's awesome.
Sure. And as I mentioned before, the TOEFL Official App, which this you can get directly from the App Store or Google Play. You can download this and you can see what the icon looks like. It has the TOEFL T on it. This will let you register anywhere. Again, you could be waiting for your car to be repaired, and you can register. You can register 24 hours a day using this. But the most important feature of this particular way to register is it gives you access to Google Maps. So you can drill down to the street level to see what the front of the testing center looks like, what else is on the street, especially if you're testing in an unfamiliar area or location to you. This is particularly helpful. And we know that around the world, there are not always reliable street indicators or markers for you to know exactly where you're going. So having that feature is very, very helpful.
Absolutely. I found the app, and you do have to do a little bit of digging to get to it. So if you navigate to the TOEFL website, the ETS TOEFL website, you have some options. Especially if you're on your mobile device, it might be a little easier on a computer, but you'll click on prepare for the test. And under prepare for the test, there is something called apps. And if you click on learn more under apps, that's where you will find it. It says the TOEFL Go app, and then you'll click the button that says launch the TOEFL Go app. And then it's going to take you to a site where if you're an existing user, you can sign in or you will create your account. So it is very different than downloading an app from the App Store. I'm used to my double click to download. And
Right.
so there is a little more in-depth downloading process to get the app on your phone, but I wanted to make sure everybody knew where to find it, because I even had Tracy on the other side, like, Tracy, we got to find this app. So we found it. It is on there. So you go to prepare for the test, and then you'll click on the apps, and then it'll be the first one that pops up, and launch the TOEFL Go app. So
Great.
We found it.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. It is interesting. I don't know if that'll change in the future, but that's the current way to access it, versus this, which you truly can just go to the App Store or Google Play and search for TOEFL Official App.
Yes. Yeah.
And make sure that it has that word official in it.
Awesome.
Great. Next slide, please. So on the test day itself, no matter where you're testing, you need to bring that same ID documentation that you made sure you used when you created your profile, and make sure again that the name matches, because you will have to show it at a test center in order to gain entrance and in order to be able to take the test. And when you're testing at home, you'll also have to show it to the online proctor, so that he or she can verify that, yes, you are the person on the ID. You'll find that we ask you to do a security inspection. If you're in a test center, that means that the staff will we have electronic wands, and that will let us pick up if you have any unfortunate contraband devices on you. Hopefully you won't. And in the case of testing at home, we ask you to use your webcam to show us, and it might mean looking up your laptop, but to show us that there's no one in the room around you, there's no one under the desk on which you're taking the desk or table that you're using to take the test on, to again prove that you are alone. If you're testing in a test center, we're providing you with the computer and the headset with the built-in microphone to use. And by the way, that microphone is sensitive enough to pick up you speaking, even though there might be somebody about 5 feet away from you also speaking. It can discern just your voice and will be able to hear you. So you don't need to yell. I think it's only natural when you have headset on that you tend to speak louder. You don't have to. And again, there's a proctor in the testing center and in the testing room that you can ask for help while you're testing. For those of you who are testing at home, the proctor is online, so you can indicate to the proctor by waving or speaking, proctor, I have a problem or a question, to get their attention. And then we ask you to do a final equipment check with the proctor immediately before the test, because we want to make sure that the test will deploy appropriately at home. Our in-test center proctors go through all of that before you come into the test center. So that's the difference between the two. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned before that when you take the test, regardless of where you're testing, at home or in a test center, the reading and the listening are scored by the computer. So we can automatically, at the end of your test, present you with your results for the reading and the listening sections. That's 2 out of 4. So it's still considered unofficial in the eyes of ETS, because you don't know the results yet of your speaking and writing, because we use both that ESL educator and AI technology to score both of those sections. So when we send you your official score results electronically in your online registration profile, roughly 3 days after taking the test, you will then be able to see the results for all 4 sections. And if at that time you need to send your scores to one of the state associations or any other professional organization, you can do so at that time.
Very cool.
Sure. And I do know that in the case of many of our score users or score recipients, they also have the ability to verify the scores electronically online, should there be any questions. So with your score report, you are able to download it yourself and print a copy and have it and retain it, which is fine and helpful. Scores are considered valid for 2 years from the date that you tested. So if you test today on August 3rd, 2023, your scores will be valid and accessible in your online profile until August 2nd, 2025. At midnight US time, your scores disappear from your profile and even from our database, so I can't see them anymore either. They are truly wiped off. So that's why it's very helpful for you to print and download a copy in case you want to compare if you test again at a later date, or you just want to have it as a reference point. We know that for students, they like the fact that they can get their scores so quickly after they've tested. And again, it appears online in your profile. One of the new things that we've added in this recent modernization is we provide you at the very end of your test, not only your unofficial reading and listening scores, but we also give you the date of when your scores will be ready. That's a brand new feature and tremendously helpful for many students to have a sense of what's going on and when to expect it. We also then, when your scores are ready, notify you with an email that your scores are now appearing in your profile. We don't expect you to spend all day long on the computer looking for it, so we will make you aware.
Oh, that's really nice. And it's very important. I'm glad you brought up the 2 years validity. We do have nurses who have taken a TOEFL or an IELTS, whatever exam they took. The 2 years validity is true for every test. No matter what test you take, your test scores are valid for 2 years. Now, once you get your visa screen, because that's usually what you're looking for, is your test scores to be valid for your visa screen. Let's say that, your test scores, let's say you took it last year. So you still got another year left on your validity. You submit your test scores and you get your visa screen today. Well, that doesn't mean that your test scores expire, but your visa screen is good for 5 years. Once you get those test scores in that visa screen, it does extend the length. You don't have to retest again after those 2 years. Okay, so once you get your test documented and you've achieved your visa screen, your test validity is going to extend as far as visa screen purposes are concerned for the length of the visa screen. But in order to get that visa screen, you have to have taken a test. That test has to be taken within that 2-year window. So you do have to, applying for the visa screen, have to have valid test scores within that 2-year window. So hopefully, I know that gets really confusing. Hopefully I didn't confuse you guys too much. But yes, I talked to a lot of nurses who are like, oh, I took one 5 years ago, and they'll send me scores. And I'm like, no, those aren't good anymore. So 2 years, you got 2 years. So some people also want to take their English test really early in their immigration process. And the immigration process can take a very long time. So I stress for you to take your English exam, but don't take it too soon. Wait until you have that accepted job offer. Then take your English test, just to make sure you're within that 2-year validity window.
Great. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, you have the ability, if you already know the states that you're interested in, and you wanted to include the codes for those nursing associations, you could do so before the test, because you can send scores for free to up to 4 different code numbers. And if you don't know any that you're feeling pretty certain they're the states you want, or if you just would rather not send your scores anywhere first before you see them, that's also fine. You can choose to send your scores later. At this time, for a nominal fee, it's $20 to send your scores to an institution after you've taken the test, after you've seen your scores. And to be honest with you, most students wait and do it then. And most of our people applying for professional programs as well wait till after they've seen their scores before they send them anywhere.
Absolutely. Our nurses will be sending their scores to CGFNS. So there is the process for, or Joseph Silney, whatever you choose to go through your visa screen process. So I do recommend saving yourself the $20, even if, let's say that you don't meet that required score. CGFNS and will just be like, well, you didn't meet the required score, so it's fine. It's not like I'm sure they get so many test scores of people who don't meet their requirements. So if it were me, I'd rather save the $20 and spend it on something else. Just go ahead and send your scores to CGFNS. And if your Board of Nursing requires test scores to be submitted to them as well. So it is important to note, talking about test scores for speaking is where nursing makes the big differentiation. They have a very specific score requirement. An 81 overall band score is required, or used to be an 83. I'm pretty sure it's 81 now. But in speaking, for the visa screen, you need a 24. But in many states still require a 26 in speaking. So please make sure you know that. Keep that in mind. I'm just double checking. Yes, a combined score of 81 with a minimum of 57 on reading, listening, and writing. And then CGFNS requires a 24 in speaking, but many boards of nursing still require a 26 in speaking. So make sure you pay attention. Shoot for the 26th. Shoot for the 26th.
I agree. Next slide, please. And this actually is my last slide. This QR code takes you to a website where you can actually enter your own location to find the nearest appropriate TOEFL contact that you can reach out to. We have some worldwide service centers that are able to accommodate our overseas test takers, as well as our own US-based office. Sometimes people have questions when they're awake and not when the US is. So it's nice to know that you have options. And by going to this link and entering your country of location, you'll be able to find the right people to contact at the right time for you. I hope all of this information was helpful to you. I know it's a particularly daunting task to be able to be prepared and ready to take your English language proficiency test. But I know that you'll find that since TOEFL is accepted by all 50 state nursing associations, and we do send an awful lot of scores to CFGNS, you will find that it is a great option, especially now that it is under 2 hours in length, but still giving you the same confidence in demonstrating your English proficiency.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm excited to, I know Michelle listed a whole lot. TOEFL's partnered with some great people for support and for tutoring. But if you are a worldwide nurse, if you have signed an offer with Worldwide, you do have free access to me. And I am a certified ESL teacher, and I am designing in the middle of design. I was waiting on TOEFL to roll out their new test so that I could check it out. I'm going to do a deep dive into the new TOEFL Go app. But I'm designing a TOEFL preparation course. So if you are preparing for the TOEFL, you choose to take the TOEFL, you can, and you're a worldwide nurse, you can enroll in our free TOEFL course that's going to launch at the end of this month. And you will get one-on-one feedback directly from yours truly. So again, I am here as a free resource, but Michelle definitely listed some fantastic resources that ETS has also made available to you guys. For, like she said, there's a nominal fee associated with some of it. But I did see on there that, if you use the ETS people, your preparation, it can give you like discounts when you register for your TOEFL. Is that true? Did I read that correctly? Making sure I'm not like false advertising.
No false advertising there. It can give you a discount on your registration, but also we know that sometimes people combine different test prep materials. So we have some price bundles also at discounted rates.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Thank you so much, Michelle, yet again for joining us and, coming to my corner of the world right here. I know our nurses really appreciate it. I know it's 10:20, so we're approaching the end of Kari's Corner, but if I receive any questions, guys, I am so fortunate. I have a direct contact to Michelle. So if you guys have any questions specifically for Michelle that you would like to ask about TOEFL, about anything she talked about today, please, 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 please send me an email. Let me know, and I'm happy to reach out to Michelle on your behalf so that she is not inundated with a whole plethora of emails. But I just want to thank you so much, Michelle, for coming on the show today. We so appreciate you, and we so appreciate your time. And speaking on behalf of all the nurses, we so appreciate ETS for shortening the TOEFL.
Well, we greatly appreciate and support all of our nurses worldwide. These have been some challenging times, and they continue to be challenging, but anyone who has the kindness in their heart and their spirit to care for others is definitely A1 in our books.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to use this opportunity then to again say thank you to Michelle. Thank you again to Worldwide for giving us the time in this corner. But other than that, thank you for watching. And this is Kari Cooper reminding you, don't face the corner, face the world with Worldwide. Hope everyone